Hello.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Did you guys hear that meow? That was my cat. He's walking away. This is Bible Study Girl, but you may know me as Sarita. And aside from the cat that you just heard, the first voice that you heard on this podcast was the voice of the executive producer, Bible Study Brother.
What's up, people? It is I, Bible Study Brother, but I am also known as Icarus Gray or a Gray Area Anime. This is the most wonderful podcast of your day. We are back to do another one. Please go and subscribe to the Bible Study Girl YouTube page, which is down in the description. If you get us to 100, it'll make this so much easier, because then I'll just be able to say, go to youtube.com/Bible Study Girl, and it'll make it way easier on you if you help us, because we want to help you through your day.
Awesome. So in case you've been hiding under a rock, or maybe this is your first time listening to this podcast, we have been in an in-depth look at the book Boundaries. We've gone through and read, and today is a very special day. Although we've come to the end of the road, we are at the end of the road in our boundaries journey. The book Boundaries was written by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. And the subtitle is When to Say Yes, How to Say No, to Take Control of Your Life. This has been an epic journey for both of us. And today we're going to discuss chapter 16, which is How to Measure Success with Boundaries, and chapter 17, which is A Day in a Life with Boundaries. We're going to do a smash up to combine these two last chapters. I mean, we've gone through part 1 of the book, which is What are Boundaries? We went to part 2, Boundary Conflicts, and now we are happily living in part 3, which is Developing Healthy Boundaries. And let me say, for myself, I can't speak for anybody but myself, this has been quite a journey. If you're new around here and you've never heard us discuss the book Boundaries before, I can tell you it has been a transformative book in my life. I say it quite often, and several times. It's not an easy read. Not necessarily because the words are challenging, but because the book as a whole challenges you, and it challenges your beliefs about boundaries and what's healthy and what's not healthy. I said not healthy, from a Christian perspective. And so some people find it rather easy to look at themselves, to really examine where they are in their life, and it's more difficult for others. I think I lean into the category of people that is always looking in the mirror. I always want to know what's wrong with me before somebody else points it out. At least that's what I say, until I really start to look at myself. And this book is a book that has really challenged me and really brought out things in me that I don't like. But also on the flip side, it's given me an incredible opportunity to work on those things and to do better and to be better. And so I'll say it again. I'm excited that we are at the end of this journey. If you have any comments about the book, how the book has helped you, or even how listening to us discuss different elements in the book, how they've challenged you or maybe changed your perspective on things, we love to hear it. We do love to get feedback from you guys, because we are a community, and it always helps us. It makes us better when you share what has been most impactful for you or what's not so helpful. We welcome all back and forth communication. I think it makes us stronger. So, brother, chapter 15, like I said, is all about how to measure success with boundaries. And the authors, so last week we discussed different obstacles that you might face as you begin to use these healthy boundaries. We learned all these things about ourselves. We've learned tools. on how to implement them. And then last week was really about the things that you can encounter, the resistance you could get from the outside and the inside as you begin to walk this thing out and really live it. And it's not just something that's in a book, it's something that is part of your everyday life. In chapter 15 gives us a handy 11-step guide to help us measure our growth when it comes to living out these healthy boundaries in our life. And there's a hierarchy, right? Number one is the beginning stage of establishing boundaries and lets you know you are on the right track all the way to the 11th step. And again, the book provides some very extensive examples of each step and ways to know which step you are on as you begin your boundary journey. But I think it is a great measuring tool. And I will say this as well. We're not ever going to be perfect or have fully arrived until we are reunited with the Heavenly Father. Again, this is just a way for you to see I'm not as bad as I was, but there's definitely still room for improvement. And so, brother, I'm curious, when you read through the different steps, were you able to figure out where you are in your boundary setting journey from step 1 to step 11? Where do you currently fall?
It honestly felt like step 1, and which is like resentment. So it's like, and it I could have been somewhere between. I think step. I can't remember what number of the step, but there's one step that's like guilt, accepting guilt. I think.
There's a couple of steps that talk about guilt in different ways. So there's
I have to, but hold on. Now I got to do a little research, guys. I felt like I was at the resentment stage in a way because I know sometimes when I'm thinking about like a boundary that I'm changing, like sometimes I still get angry or I'm still like apprehensive about what the response is going to be.
Well, I think that is fair to say that you are at step 1 because this is your first time reading through the Boundaries book. So it's kind
That's what it is. It could also be step 6, and I could be step 1 or step 6 because it's either I rejoice in the guilty feelings of like that or I resent making them. It switches between very far along and very much so in the beginning.
I will say this too. I think that's very common and very regular, right? Like I said, it's not a perfection thing. There's an ebb and a flow in progress. So I think it's safe to say you're anywhere on any given day between 1 and 6. It's going to take consistently doing it and consistently implementing the boundaries in your life to really be more settled in a specific stage. But that's why I asked the question, because to me, this is my 3rd time reading through the book. And the last 2 times I read through the book, honestly, I think I had a different fixation on different parts of the book. So this time it is a little easier for me to kind of judge where I am in the process. And I think that's because I've been doing the work for longer. So does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
I would say currently right now I'm between a 7 and an 8 in my journey to establishing and developing and living a life of healthy boundaries. Step 7 is all about practicing grown-up no's. As a person that really grew up with limited boundaries, having a firm no was a definite struggle for me, right? And okay, so 7 is having a grown-up no. And then step 8 is rejoicing in the absence of guilty feelings. So for me, I'm at the stage where I can have a grown up no when someone asks me to do something, and then I don't have the guilt, right? Early on in my journey, when I had to tell my loved ones no, or other people that weren't necessarily loved ones, no, oh, ho, ho. The
Mm-hmm.
guilt would descend like a heavy blanket on me. And I think we talked last week about the fact that your guilty feelings that you have, that's not anybody else's responsibility but yours, because you have to figure out, why do I feel guilty? Why do I feel guilty about that? So I could say today, I'm happy that I'm at a place where I can tell people no and mean my no, and then not feel guilty about it, right? Because I'm I'm not going to say my no won't hurt people. Sometimes your no's do hurt people, especially when they are used to you not having boundaries. But I have reached a place in my life where I know my no is no,
Mm.
and I don't feel bad about it. I can give y'all, I think we talked about it earlier in some chapters when we talked about different difficulties you could have when you're interacting with different people. There were some times this past summer where I had to say no, and I was fine with my no, and I'll be loud with my no, and I'll say my no, even though everybody else is thinking no, but they're too scared to say it. Um, and I don't think I know I would not have been able to do that, not even 3 years ago, to have my no, know my no was a valid no, and stick beside it and not feel bad about it. It just is what it is. And that takes growth, that takes time, it takes work. Um, Being at a position in a space in my life where I am determined to live the best life that I can has been an incredibly freeing experience. I've shared before that the developing of the boundaries is not necessarily easy, and I think we kind of hit on that last week. The journey may be rough, but when you get past the bumps and stuff, man, it's an exhilarating feeling. It is a freeing feeling, and it frees you up to do more of what God called you to do, right? You are not bound to what people in this world want and the expectations that others have put on you. You are really freeing up space for God to use you in the way that He intended you to use you, without you being worn down, without you being grumpy and tired, because you've reached a point in your life where you recognize what's in your boundaries to control. We talked about the house analogy when we first started reading the Boundaries book. God gave you a house. This is your yard. You're in control of this fence, what comes in and what comes out, right? You can have a yard that is full of chaos because you're just letting anybody come in and out at any time whenever they want to, because you haven't established healthy boundaries. You could also have a yard that has grass that's withered and dead and not healthy because you're so busy taking care of the neighbor's yards that you neglect what God gave you. So I am thankful that I've reached a place where I'm more mindful of what God gave me and of my responsibility to take care of that. Brother,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think? Okay, so both of these chapters deal with what life could look like for you with healthy boundaries. What do you think are the things that you'll take away from actually reading the book? What are the steps that you think you can actually start to walk out in your everyday life right now, today, as a result of having gone through the Boundaries book?
Mm, I think growing to knowing what's my yard and what's somebody else's yard, and growing to the acceptance of your yard as your yard. which, as you know, I'm in a season where there's a whole lot of other yard managing, and getting to the acceptance of, well, these are the things that I have to worry about for my life, for my career, for my marriage. That's what I have to take care of. I can pray and be an assistance in certain ways, but the growth of getting to accepting, like, it's not my responsibility. And I not only is it not my responsibility, I trust God enough to know that whatever happens to the people that you stop taking care of their yards, God is taking care of them. And however they have choices to walk with him or not walk with him or not accept provision or whatever machinations of things that they're going through, and the acceptance of that, to where I'm living freely in the fact that it's, like you said, the acceptance of any of the things that go on is what I'm most hopeful for, what I'm most looking forward to, is what I'm working very hard to be at, and make my no's be my no's, my yeses be my yeses, and be confident in what I need. Like, what is it that I need? Why, like, I might be getting an attitude about something that doesn't even halfway require an attitude. What's going on? What am I trying to actually say? None of these things are attacks on every moment in my past. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They are illuminations to, well, this was my responsibility. This part was, this is what I needed to assess. These are the things that I took from it. These are the things that are okay with me. Like, that was fine. That's where I set my boundary, and I got to be okay with that. Also have to be okay with, when you say agree to disagree, sometimes we just say it as just as an idiom to say, to like give you the freedom to like walk away and not care about what the other person said. How
Right.
I think about it with boundaries is, I empathize and I understand that is how you feel. I do not feel that way. I respect your feelings. I also ask that you respect mine. We don't have to see eye to eye or get to a point to where like your feelings are informing mine, or vice versa. But how you feel is valid to you. I will, whatever it is I need to do to be accountable for my parts in terms of whatever it is that, I'm thinking about, I'll do. But that's not your responsibility. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with respecting your feelings and your thoughts on something that don't involve me.
You know, so let me ask you this question. I don't know if I asked you this at the beginning. I feel like maybe I did. When you think back on when we first started reading the book, which was it was summertime. It was way in the middle of the year. This has been like a 6-month journey.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 4 months. Anyway, the whole point of the matter is we have been in boundaries for months and months. So when you think back to where you were before we ever cracked the pages, did you even imagine or anticipate that the book would speak to where you are in life as much as it does?
Zero. Like, I just thought, because we talked about that first paragraph. Like, it's not even like the first sentence or things of that nature. It's that first paragraph where you're sitting and you're like, finally, somebody understands that you are a terror on my life and not respecting my boundaries. And then it's like the next couple sentences and things, and it's like, but that's your problem. You didn't do it. And I'm like, oh, I remember the first time, because that's where I stopped in the initial. So I remember like getting past that, and like you start in that defensive state. And
100%.
I started in that defensive state of like, yep, yep, yep. I've talked about this, and then it's like, but that's something I gotta say. But that's my problem. That's something I'm dealing with. Okay, but how do I? It doesn't even matter. I just have to like stand on what I need to stand on, and then just go from there and be healthy and be free and let go and let God and all of these things that are very difficult because you're basically telling me in so many different ways it's my responsibility. You giving me an acceptance of the fact that something happened to me, but if I want to move past it, it's my responsibility to find the support groups that are going to help me move past it, to accept what happened to me and, move forward, let it go, all these other things. And it's just, it was a roller coaster, bro. And it's just like, and it's still going, and like, I'm repeatedly talking to people about this book when I'm talking to them and trying to like inspire or encourage, like, hey, you ain't wrong for like how you feel. Just do the thing that you need to do for you, because ain't nobody else gonna do it.
And that is true. I will say, I feel like I repeat myself a lot, but it is very true for me. It sounds, I think maybe I'm like much like you. You agree with all the turmoil that the lady is going through in the first chapter, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are so many expectations on her and so many responsibilities that she has. And if you grow up in a church and you have a love for God, quite often you get sucked into the messages that you just give and give and give and give and give and give until there's nothing left. That's what you were called to do. And to have to face the reality that maybe I don't really understand what God wants for me. Maybe I don't really understand what's healthy. Maybe I don't really understand what's
Girl,
because
you ringing my like that one, that one, that one phrase of maybe I don't understand what's healthy, and you just looking at like, oh, the attacks.
But see, what I'm going to say is a lot of times we don't know what's healthy because we've never seen healthy. We function in our dysfunction and don't even realize that that's not what God has for us. Because how many times do we really sit outside of a Sunday service or Wednesday night Bible study or whenever your church does Bible study, if you attend? How much time do we often sit and study the scriptures to have a good understanding of what boundaries are, or just study the scriptures, period, to be able to know this stuff, right? And a lot of times, if it's not just taught to us, then we don't know it. We tend to cling on, like I said, to the dysfunction.
And not in a Star Trek way, guys. We're not just speaking Klingon. We tend to dad joke inserted. And you
Gross.
laughed.
The ha ha. So we hold on to what's unhealthy because that's familiar to us. So to sit down and to read a book that is based on the truth of God's word, and to see that the way you have been thinking and the way that you have been living is not healthy is a shock to the system. I will be the first to say, we grew up in church, we're in church all the time, stayed in church, never left church. We were at church. Our mama drove the van with the youth. She opened and closed the church. She was the church secretary. Like, if we were in the choir, everything, church, our lives revolved around church. And so to be so connected with Christ and still so off. That's a shock to the system.
Oh no, that's a shock to the system, but it's also a shock to the system that the culture of things that we got stuck in were around that we could have said no and it would have been okay.
And it would have been okay.
Like,
And that's one big reason why I wanted us to talk about this book and to read this book. I don't believe that we grew up in a community with people that wanted to harm us, right? That that meant evil. But I think across the Christian community, there is a tendency to overload and to overwhelm and to manipulate and guilt message. Like you said, it's cultural.
yeah,
We accept it.
it's literally, and this is why it shows poor boundaries to me. The simplest example that all of you realize is, what is your expectation if you, when you go to college and you meet somebody who is somewhat spiritual, who is like loves God, so on and so forth, whatever the case may be, your normal expectation and what majority of you just heard in your heads is, oh, they finna wild out. But why are they going to wild out? Because this is the first time where they have actually been able to make choices for themselves that are not indicative of what this person thinks or what that person thinks or whatever this person wants. And because their boundaries have been getting taken advantage of for so long in so many different ways, whether it's, you know, your attendance, like it gets to where you make the choice to follow God and then everybody makes choices for you.
Right. And I think that's why this discussion of this book and boundaries is so important. Christian parents have a lot of responsibility and they have a lot of opportunity to help their child develop healthy boundaries, to give them the space to make safe choices so that when they are away from home for the first time, they don't become these wild, you know, I want to see what it's all about kind of people. I, and that's hard to do. I think it's
Yeah.
hard as a parent. I think it's hard for me personally, just as a person. And I also recognize that it's hard as a parent to train up a child to have healthy boundaries, especially when you have not ever experienced that for yourself, or you're not even aware that that's something that you struggle with, right? I don't think, um, again, I don't really feel like people are out here trying to, for the most part, I don't think people are out here trying to harm other Christians. We just get into the culture, right? And not really the connection with our creator. And so I'm grateful we had an opportunity to walk through this book. And I'll tell you this, there's a sharp contrast between the life that the lady lives in chapter 1 that has no boundaries, where people are walking all over her.
Mm-hmm.
She's overwhelmed. She is stressed, but she truly feels like she's doing everything she can to glorify God.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the woman that emerges in chapter 17, who's had to make some difficult decisions, right? She's had to tell the church lady, no, you can't just call me at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and want me to come to the church tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning with this
While I'm
done.
cooking dinner in the middle of family
Right.
time, like, you can't steal time from me and be okay with that.
Right. Um, a husband and children that, again, she was overwhelmed in the first chapter because she's doing it all. But in chapter 17, she has developed a routine. If you want me to cook breakfast for y'all in the morning, you have to clean up after I cook. These dishes need to be put up in the dishwasher. I'm not asking you to do something that is outrageous. I'm asking you to be responsible for the things that you can be responsible for so that I can be free to do other things, right? She set boundaries with her husband. Okay, this is what I need from you. I need for you to tell me I won't be home for dinner. Oh, great, hon. Since you're telling me that, we can eat later. Just let me know when you're going to be here. Instead of chaos, because you're trying to appease everybody, she has achieved a lifestyle where she's responsible for what she's responsible for in her four walls, her boundaries. And then I'm giving you your responsibilities. And it's not an ultimatum.
No, it's
You
a
are
choice.
given the choice. You are given the choice. I'm telling you, this is what I can handle. This is what's I don't have to be everything for everybody. This gives me the opportunity to be the best that I can in so many different areas. And I can tell you that I'm happy for her, this fictional woman in the book that is really a representation of so many people that live busy lives, that are juggling all the things. I'm happy for her, but I'm even happier for me myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an indication to me of what my life could be, the order and the balance that I could have in my life if I make it a habit to consistently set healthy boundaries with other people. I've said it before, I will say it again. It's not easy.
No.
And everybody is not going to be on board with your journey. We talked about it last week. You will probably have people that feel you're being mean.
And before we get there, because even like because there's two parts of that story, this redeeming story, and I forget Sarah, I think is her name. It doesn't even matter. But that was like so crucial to. I know a lot of y'all had dealt with this. So one, in the beginning, her mom would just come over whenever she wanted to come over. She would just call and then guilt trip her daughter into spending time. Like, oh, you just don't care about me. Oh, her parents had a divorce, I think, sometime soon, or her daddy died. I can't remember which. And so her mom would always guilt trip her into spending time. So in her newfound boundary, her mom came over on a random night. She had to spend time doing a science project with her son, and she was like, "Hey, you can come in here and watch, or you can go home, whatever you want to do. But I gotta do this." And she hit her with the guilt messaging. And it's just like, okay, and closed the door and went on about her business. And yeah, it made her feel away, but she was able to stand on that. And then the second one that was like so encouraging for me is the friend one, where sometimes it hurts to stand up for yourself in a friendship that you have not stood up for yourself for. You are not somebody's therapist. You are not somebody's God. You are not somebody's one-way street. Like, if that's the kind of relationship that they need while neglecting every single one of your needs as a friend, you got to reassess. And that's difficult, but it's much more rewarding to you to see where you actually stand and to free yourself from an expectation that'll never be filled because they don't have healthy boundaries, or they don't have a healthy sense of themselves or insecurities, whatever it is that they're dealing with. You are not, you're not you're not a charity case. You're not
Right.
somebody who can only be like given a couple pennies every now and again just because somebody feels sorry for you. Your value, and I think that was step 5 or 7, but treasuring yourself.
Yeah,
Treasuring the things you treasure.
treasuring the things you treasure. I think, I guess what you said is really true. It is like a redemption story. She is redeeming what is valuable, not only to her, but what's valuable to God. God has given us all unique gifts, and He wants us to be good stewards of those gifts. He wants us, so that requires us being good stewards of our boundaries and what's healthy. Um, I guess I'm trying to figure out the way. There's a cost though. There is a cost to doing there's a cost to living out a life with healthy boundaries. And at some point, you do have to count the cost and decide, um, is it more worthwhile to hold on what's familiar and comfortable to me, even if it's unhealthy, even if it's killing me? Or should I take the leap and follow what God has for me? I don't ever, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a one-stop shop. I don't have all the answers, but I'm excited that I do get to share just one of the tools that has helped me through the years. I highly recommend the Boundaries book. I also highly recommend therapy if you can afford it. I often accuse my mama of being like,
I don't know what you're going to say.
I would accuse my mama of not at times not being aware that like everybody can't do this, or everybody
Oh Lord, I knew this where he was going. Oh,
you
my
knew that,
mama.
or everybody can't do that. Like, and so I don't want to be I don't want to be blind or just like throwing out, I'll go to therapy, because it's not, I mean, it's expensive, and it's an investment, but I personally have found it to be incredibly worth it. So if you can't afford therapy, there are different resources available in the community, different hotlines you can call if you need some help. And if you just really cannot, maybe your church offers spiritual counseling. You can go to your pastor. Even if not your pastor, you could check with your church to see what kind of resources they have and what kind of connections they have to the mental health community to help you get the help that you need. And it may not just be with boundaries, it could be with anything, but I'm a big advocate. We can't do life alone, even though at times we want to, and it's more comfortable to be alone than it is to reach out for help or seek help or talk to people. But I encourage you to do that, because, like I said, I'm not a therapist or a counselor, but I have found that therapy has been life-changing for me and life-enhancing for me, as well as having community with fellow believers, people that have a true relationship with Christ. That has helped me get through some of the toughest seasons of my life, um, and has pushed me to do better, to be better, really to be the best that I can be. So, brother, thank you for walking through the Boundaries book with me. It has been
You
a
know what?
long journey. What?
Initially, I wanted to fight you, um, because I thought this was just something fun because you read so much, and you were like, you were being so petty by inviting me in on this. But it has been a huge blessing to do this with you and to like really take that next step in healing and growing our relationship. Not that, there was not a lot of healing done. There was a lot of healing done prior to this book, but to push that into the next step of that and push us into being better people for each other and respecting each other, no matter how hard that is. Because again, we have trained actions that we do sometimes, but like noticing them and being able to say, hey, I'm sorry for that. Like I remember after the first couple of chapters being like, hey, I'm sorry I made you just see. My bad. I didn't mean to do that. I should just, like if I need this or whatever. Um, you know, and I've just been blessed by that. That has been one of the greatest gifts that I've gotten in a long time, is being able to stand on our relationship and stand on things that like happened, been like, no, this is truthfully happened, but I accept these are the things that I accepted, and I don't want that to be the end of our growth, our evolution, where our relationship is. I want it to be healthier. I want it to be in a better place. I want to be like, yo, this is where I stand. This is what I respect. Like this is what I need. I respect what you need. I'm gonna get on it, and we gon' when if we got to come back to the negotiation table at some point, we can, because we respect the boundaries,
Right.
And so thank you for doing this, like I said. And because even though even funny enough, even though you were being petty, you were still not being hateful. It was just okay, since we gonna do books. You know what I'm saying?
Let us do books.
And that was more of a, like, because you could have picked anything. Like, you could have picked some fictional book that, talks about some siblings, but you picked something that you knew would be beneficial for us. And you wanted to give me an opportunity to have growth in myself and have growth in my relationships. And I appreciate that.
You are welcome, brother. I think it's always good for me to go through Boundaries, the book, because, like I said before, it's changed my life. And I think it has, like you said, been very helpful for our relationship, for us to really see where we are and to have a better understanding of what healthy looks like instead of our continual patterns and routines, to step out of that and really trust that God is able to do just what he said he would do. We just have to be willing to.
He's able.
He's able. We just have to be willing to take that step and trust that he's going to continue to lead us and guide us. So thanks for taking the journey with me. I look forward to the next book that we do for the Bible Study Girl Book Club. I don't know that it will necessarily be this long or painful. I don't know. But I think this was a perfect first book for us to kick off the series together. I'm really interested to see what you guys want to hear us talk about, maybe for our next book club discussion, or just what you would like to see us discuss in the new year. I'm excited to see what I say that. Let me quit lying. I'm curious to see what 2024 holds. I'm not going to say that I'm excited. I think, the end of the year has been a bit more challenging for me in general, because you never know what the new year is going to hold. Could be good, could be bad. It's a mixed bag. So anyway, you can leave us messages in the comments. You can always message us on the Facebook on the Facebook Bible Study Girl page. If there's something you want to say, but you don't want it to be seen by the general public. People do it all the time. We look forward to reading your messages and interacting with you. It encourages us and lets us know that we are on purpose. We are on assignment. We are doing what the good Lord has called us to do. So it's always good to hear from you. I am going to swing it over to Bible Study Brother, because this is not part of my ministry. It's part of his.
Well.
Or not.
Well, I appreciate you guys for coming and joining with us as always. I would direct you down to the description to make sure that you follow us on all social platforms, where we post regularly about the episodes that are coming up, things that we're working on, videos. All of our socials are down in the description. I want to encourage you during this season, if you need prayer, send your prayers and everything to Bible Study Girl 2019 at gmail.com, or on our Facebook page in the messages, because we're more than willing to pray for you guys. I'm more than willing to intercede on your behalf, because we know how the holidays are. We know what that can mean for a lot of people, and we're not going to let capitalism infect anybody during this season if we can help it. So allow us to be there for you if you need it. And even if you just want us to just pray for you, period, just reach out. This has been the Bible Study Girl podcast. Remember that it is not I or you that preach.
You didn't do Instagram.
Well, no, I didn't do the whole thing, because I just did. Those are just the contact points that I want them to contact for the holiday. The rest of it is in the description.
Oh, God bless you.
That's why I said that.
Okay. God bless you.
We've changed the thing, because you actually got it down there. So I want them to go to the description.
So you judging me because I wasn't putting them in the description box before? Then I'm going to let you get off of here because you just judging me.
A little bit. I really was, because I was like, yo, I say it all the time, and I judge you because you was never like, my boundary is I haven't done any of that.
No,
until
no, no. Okay, so listen. It wasn't like a hard boundary for me. It was just kind of like, he says it, but haven't gotten around to doing that. So yes, okay, brother, I'm going to be quiet and let you do what you do.
remember, y'all, it's not I or you, but we preach.
And until we meet again, guys, keep preaching.